Hello, everybody. All right, this is a response to a question by Looper Radical about what sort of Fukinese or shorthand style of Kung Fu would complement boxing. All right, Looper, I think the answer is right in front of you, and it's also not in front of you. So where am I going with this? First of all, Wing Chun. All right, Wing Chun can be modified to fit with boxing. A lot of Wing Chun people are doing it, even people that are not Wing Chun people. And of course, Jeet Kune Do is a lot of Wing Chun meets a lot of boxing and boxing and fencing principles. So, we're at the point with YouTube where almost every single Wing Chun technique and training methodology is on YouTube, right? So, have at it, right? Wing Chun is a very ubiquitous style, and I think the biggest problem in Wing Chun was that right around the Ip Man movies and a little bit before then, there was a huge explosion in popularity of Wing Chun and a loss of quality control. And there's a lot of paper tigers out there who learned Wing Chun and just never really tested it to a real extent. If you lived in Hong Kong in the 50s, where you weren't facing a lot of Western style boxers, but they were there, and there were other Kung Fu styles, but the majority of people didn't train in any combat art, you didn't need a whole hell of a lot of pressure testing. Maybe Chi Sao and hitting equipment would have been enough to help you out to survive in that environment. But nowadays, fight sports are multi-million dollars industry, and people love watching it, and a lot of people dabble in it, and boxing once again is getting immensely popular because of Floyd Mayweather, let's say, and especially his crossover matches with MMA guys and YouTube influencers. So Wing Chun, it's right in front of you. And if you look at I really like watching Sensei Seth just instantly try to apply Wing Chun with very minimal training. Kevin Lee showed him some techniques, and you even see Icy Mike applying some. And recently, Jeff Chan did a video with Kevin Lee where I'm sure off camera for an hour or so, they played around with it, but he was applying it in sparring, right? So there it is. Here's what's not in front of you. Gocho Kyun 5 Ancestor Fist. 5 Ancestor Fist shares a lot with Wing Chun. As a matter of fact, I highly encourage Wing Chun people to cross-train in 5 Ancestor Fist and vice versa. Especially if you're doing all the two-man sets. 5 Ancestor Fist is a seemingly simple system that is actually very rich and complicated. It is a seemingly, quote-unquote, I hate this word because it's a nonsense factory, external martial art that is actually hugely internal, right? So I happen to have a black sash certificate in 5 Ancestor Fist from Grandmaster Bonifacio Lim. Although we are no longer affiliated, I can pick up that certificate and show you his signature on it, right? And I know the complete system. I've written down the material, I video recorded the material. I have his own complete system DVD that I bought for $300 when he was selling it, and I have many private videos of me doing demonstrations and stuff. So theoretically, if you wanted to set up a training program, if anybody wanted to set up a training program in 5 Ancestor Fist, Gocho Kyun, they could do it with me. And let me tell you something. His headquarters school in Plainsboro, New Jersey is still open. It's not a school per se. He teaches at a community center, but he is very at one point he was very open with his teaching, and a group of other Chinese from his headquarters school in Manila, Bangkiam, which is now closed. People that had been affiliated with it, or wanted to be affiliated with it, contacted him, and they formed a federation. It was Beng Chong, and immediately, as the non-Chinese, I started to be excluded. There was definitely some racism, cultural bias, and elitism there, which is why I left, because he always preached to us about how we were all equal, and he doesn't look at people's race and religion and culture. But then he started doing that, and he really disappointed me. And if you're listening, Master Bonifacio Lim, that's why I left, and I told you so. Had you, basically, they're like, I had my black sash already, and his Chinese affiliates were like, well, we should be ranked, and so he. All the Chinese, basically, they gave him like a 7th Duan, a 7th Dan, and they all, elected themselves 5th degrees. And I was like, all right, well, I want a higher enough rank that I can teach, and I will test for it in any way you want, to include full contact fighting of anybody they pick, to include, I will fight every single master in the style, full contact. And he's like, yes, I said, I do not want to be the same rank as them. If they're 5th Dans, I want to be one under to prevent jealousy. But even they vetoed that, and they basically said he will never be promoted above his black sash, even though, in Master Bonifacio Lim's own words, you know more than everybody in the Federation, and you have more skill and more forearm development and iron body development. And so I was like, I guess I'm done here. But that being said, if people wanted to train 5 Ancestor Fist with me and set up a video correspondence program, it could be done, and you could do it, Looper Radical. You'd have to pay me, but it could be done. It is a system that I would not mind transmitting. And dedicate some serious time into developing black sash instructors and beyond. If enough people did it, we could form our own federation. We could have Duan rankings. We could have testing seminars, all that stuff. Right now, I'm not really doing anything with it except practicing some of the forms and qigong and conditioning methods on my own. But I mean, I could literally take anybody from no sash to 1st Duan easily. All right. That being said, there are other styles that could mesh with boxing. However, yes and no. For example, Bak Mei and Southern Dragon, they use a lot of this, right? Those systems use a lot of point hitting. They hit with the fingertips and the phoenix knuckles and the dragon fist, right? Which are very effective against soft targets when you go bone against soft targets. They don't have a lot of huge clobbering power, right? Like, for instance, in a boxing cross, you really load the hips and you step in and you drive through, and because you've got gloves on, you can throw full force, and you don't have, your hands are wrapped and wearing gloves. You don't have to worry about breaking those fists, right? Whereas if I was to take this phoenix knuckle and throw it with the abandonment of a right cross and nail you in the forehead, I'm going to snap this knuckle no matter how much I condition it, right? So if you notice, there's quick, short jabbing and snapping strikes to things like the eyeballs and the philtrum and the throat and the side of the neck and, the rib cage, solar plexus, kidneys, and, just underneath the nipple. You don't see a lot of totally committed striking with full abandonment strikes in almost any style that fights bare knuckle, right? So yes, you could pick up many skills, and a lot of the short infighting and grabbing, when you have the big gloves on, you have a lot of difficulty doing them, right? Whereas if you were training Wing Chun, you would definitely see a transfer. especially if you trained both the classical Wing Chun and the Jeet Kune Do, right? My biggest problem with a lot of Jeet Kune Do practitioners I see sparring on the web is that they seem to throw away a lot of really good Wing Chun and a lot of really good elbow controlling and trapping and things like that, that have worked and will continue to work, but they just seem to really be leaning into the boxing and the Muay Thai because of the popularity of MMA, right? Certainly not all of them, but I'm just talking about what I see on the internet. Every once in a while. There was a video where Kevin Lee did a brief video with Eric Paulson, and he was showing a windshield wiper drill where he had Kevin Lee with his back against the wall, and he was showing him all of the ways in which you could practice defending, and then he put his back to the wall and he had Kevin Lee try all sorts of things, and he was transitioning from elbow blocking to framing and parrying pak saos and bong saos, and it was beautiful. So it is out there, right? The Five Ancestor Fist, yes, not so much transference in terms of pure boxing technique, but you sure develop a lot of short range power and resilience and toughness, and there's a lot of bone on bone conditioning, and the stances are short, and you learn to flank the opponent and get completely behind them, and it's actually easier to step to the side. So if you were to combine this with your boxing, you could develop a lot of short range striking and body shotting. All right, so it is something to look into, right? So Looper Radical, I hope that answers your question, and you have a good day.